How can the rhino be better protected? What more can be done? And why isn't there more of an international coordination? I'm joined by Adam Roberts, CEO of the nonprofit organization Born Free USA. There's a litany of questions for you. You can take your pick, but why don't we talk about international coordination to begin with? Why isn't there better international coordination, would you say?
Well, I think for the most part, you have this real contradiction between those of us in the conservation and animal protection community who want to protect species like lions and tigers and rhinos, and we're fighting against the vested interests of the ranchers in South Africa who want to breed rhinos to sell their horn, or the people who want to kill these species magnificently in the wild. And so when you have this tension, you also have intense lobbying and intense political pressure, and that's where the challenge is. But I think overall, you see increasingly, especially with elephants and rhinos, the ivory trade and the rhino horn trade, people all across the globe moving more toward a protectionist aspect than trying to exploit these species for commercial gain.
I'd never heard this comparison. I thought it was really interesting in his story, comparing diamonds to rhinos. I guess most of us don't think that way, and I think that's one of the unique qualities that you have in people in this field, is that you do kind of see this issue differently than the average citizen. So what were some things, takeaways that you've seen that you'd like our viewers to know?
Well, I think it's a good point, and we've talked about blood diamonds for a really long time in Africa, and we maintain a website called bloodyivory.org for that very reason, that there is the same sort of case where you have people exploiting these wild animals all across the continent of Africa for commercial gain. So I think the take-homes are the problem with rhino poaching for the horn or ivory poaching, elephant poaching for the ivory. It's escalating tremendously, even though in South Africa there was a small reduction last year of rhino poaching for their horns. You've got the trade moving to Namibia, moving to Zimbabwe. It really is a continent-wide problem, and that makes it a global problem that requires, as we talked about a minute ago, global solutions. We have to really work on the ground to protect the species in the wild where they belong, but also in the consumer countries, Southeast Asia, China, where the demand is so high, and that's really what's driving the trade.
You have to attack it on both ends then. I mean, is it stiffer laws in place where the poachers really get it? And then also, if I'm buying ivory, which I shouldn't be, should the punishments be stronger there as well?
You absolutely have to have deterrent penalties in order to dissuade people from engaging in this kind of commercial trade of wildlife products. But I think the biggest message that we can get out there is that it has to be an unequivocal message. It has to be a uniform global prohibition against the consumption of lion bones or trophies, tiger bones, tiger parts, internal organs, rhino horn, elephant ivory. It has to be unequivocal and it has to be uniform, because the minute you start to open up any trade through loopholes, you'll have poachers and profiteers who want to exploit those loopholes for commercial gain. And so it has to be uniform globally.
Help us with distinctions. Vulnerable species versus endangered species. What's the difference there?
Well, really, it's a nuanced technical difference. In that case, with the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, the IUCN, they have these different categories of threat that these different species face, and it's all about the threat of extinction. Is the threat of extinction high, very high? Is it critical? And in what rapid method are these species going to go extinct? So lions, tigers, rhinos, they're all facing different levels of extinction. And for those of us at Born Free, we really look at it in terms of peril. These are imperiled species, regardless of whether they're vulnerable, endangered, critically endangered, because they are at risk. They're at risk from the trophy hunters, the commercial traders, the poachers in the wild. These are species in peril, and therefore they deserve protection.
Adam, we're out of time, but quickly, is the glass half full or is it half empty? I mean, are you optimistic? How do you see things?
I think I am optimistic, and I'm optimistic in part because there's so much attention globally now to the elephant poaching crisis, the rhino poaching crisis, and we have the U.S. State Department, foreign relations agencies, and the wildlife agencies around the world all looking at the problem together.